Okay, guys, we're back. You should know, I'm going to start off at the very top saying this. I was connected to the Wi-Fi network during the whole first part of this class. Whenever there's the slightest little hiccup in the wireless connection, it drops the recording, the video recording. So that happened at some point. I have no idea how much of what we just went through got recorded or not. But I'm hooked up, I'm wired right now to the network. So I usually can get through a solid video recording as long as I'm wired. And this is the more important part of the whole lecture anyway. So I just wanted you guys to know that you may not have all of that. However, if you go to my video channel on YouTube, I recorded all of these very same lectures for this very same class last semester. You just need to look you'll see the way it's listed on these classes. It's listed, it's something like Freelance Business. It'll be SP17 standing for Spring 17, Session 2, Part 2. You just need to look for the very same thing, except instead of SP17, it will be FA16. It was again, the lectures that happened in fall of 16. So you should be able to find any material that actually might be missing. You should be able to pick it up there. If something else, you can't find something, you have questions, whatever, again, I'll be more than happy to talk to you about any of this stuff. I do want to point out on this website, right, on our website, our Moodle site, right here, again, if we get into our site, the person who first turned me on to usage is a guy by the name of Jeff Sudik. He's right. If we look at this guy right here, it's just read Jeff Sudik on usage. It's a great description of what usage is and how it should be done. You're going to have a pretty good idea of what this is like once this class is over, but it's just something to actually be aware of. Again, and also a couple of other things I'm going to show you he's been actually heavily involved in. So at any rate, I'm going to start how to actually write a license. What a license is designed to do is specify exactly what somebody can and cannot do with your photography, and that's what usage is. So it's actually how to spell this whole thing out, okay? So I'm going to go through a really quick laundry list of this stuff. Again, all of this that you will find is in this. Taking notes is a smart thing because it helps a lot of people retain stuff by writing it down. But a lot of this information that I'm giving you right now is also in this ASMP licensing guide. So it's just know that you have other avenues of backup because this is a huge amount of information. So essentially what a license is designed to do is it grants your clients, there is an agreed scope of usage that permits them to do specific things with your photographs and nothing else. It's not just what they can do with it, it's where they can do it, it's how long they can do it, how big a circulation of it is that they can do. All of these things need to be taken into consideration in terms of writing your license, but it's also the thing that you need to negotiate with your client. This is all going to be a big part of establishing what you charge them. Make sense? So that's actually where we're going to start in this. In all of these licensing deals, there's a couple of things that need to be in each one of these. The first one is actually the players, the parties, the people that are going to actually be in it. And it simply defines who you are and who they are. Make sense? You're the licensor, they're the licensee. Make sense? So you are giving them the rights to use your photographs in a very, very, very specific way. That's part of it. The next thing is media permissions. Now, in media, when we talk about media, what we're really talking about here is where this thing is actually going to appear. So, for instance, is it going to be on a website? Is it going to be in a magazine? Is it going to be in a billboard? Is it a point of purchase? Is it a direct mail piece? Is it, exactly what is the media? Multiple medias get charged for multiple uses. So, and we'll get into that in just a second. The distribution format, is this going out electronically or is this going out printed? The placement of this, Is this only going to be in Chicago? Is this only going to be in the Midwest? Is this only going to be in North America? Well, what is North America to you guys? Does North America include Mexico? Or is that Central America? Does North America include Canada? In my book, it does. So at any rate, you need to be really specific about that part. So again, the placement of where this thing is actually going to go down. The size. Now, every guy in here has been told his whole life that size doesn't matter. That's not true. It does. How big is this all going to actually be? So for instance, is your image going to be a full page in a magazine? Or is it going to be a little postage stamp size image in a magazine? That has value to it. The bigger, if it's going to be the full page guy, that is additional, that is more usage than the little postage stamp size guy. Again, the more usage, the more value, the more value, the more money. All right. The versions of this, how often is this going to run? So if you give a client 10 images, they run the first one this month. Are they going to run another one next month for the same ad or the same whatever it is? Are they going to run another one the month after? How long is this going to go on? How many versions of it? Are you just giving them one image? Are you giving them 10 that they can actually use? That's going to have a huge part of it. Quantity, this goes to the 50,000 t-shirts, right? How many of these images are actually going to be kicked out of there? So I'm doing a piece for a real estate company that only works local here in Chicago. They only want to advertise a new apartment it's in Wicker Park. That's the only place they want to advertise it. So they're going to do 150 postcards that they're going to send out to the Wicker Park neighborhood. That's all they're going to do. That would be one quantity, right? But they also work for a Remax, which is all over the United States. So Remax sees the picture that I've shot, and they love the picture. They actually want to use it as the image that represents Remax Realty all over the United States. Well, clearly those are two radically different usages. There are going to be radical different numbers that they actually are kicking out on there. And again, that is going to call for a different cost for usage. Does that make sense? Okay, duration. How long is this going to go on? Region. Again, where is this? Is it a geographical region as far as that? They actually get into language. Is this going to be distributed in English only? Is this English and Spanish? Is this English, Spanish, and Russian? Is this, again, that is a different usage. All of that can be written into the license. Exclusivity, we talked about that before. Does this client care so much about the pictures that they do not want anybody else to use them? So we actually have to deal with that. There's more things that go into licensing. There's a whole series of constraints. So in constraints, the first one would be the license start date. When does this license kick in? So if I've agreed to write a license saying I'm giving you 6 months usage on this license, when does it start? Did it start today, or does it start when you first publish it? In most cases, people are going to want the start date to be when you first publish it. However, that would be, I can't say a mistake to write a license that way. I would just say that then what you're doing is you're letting this client sit on this picture until they actually want to start the license. It possibly would be more lucrative for you to establish a start date when they think they're going to start doing it for the license. And then if they don't get around to actually using your picture before the license expires, then they're going to have to license the image from you again and you get paid again. Which would you rather do, get paid once or twice? Yeah, pretty self-evident. So license start date is one thing that can be a constraint on this usage, on the license. A license end date would be the next thing. You can put in media constraints as far as all of this goes. You can specifically say you cannot, you know, a typical license would be you can use this for an advertisement in a magazine, but I might want to put a constraint on that and say, no, you can only use this in Sports Illustrated, or you can only use this in Vogue magazine, American Vogue magazine. So you can put restrictions on it like that. Requirements. Requirements can be things like credit line. Do you require that your credit line appears on this photograph? Those can be things that are stated in your licensing. And then any other conditions that actually apply in all of this, and there can be a huge number of them. Finally, your license should include the image information. You need to ID the photo. You cannot get a licensing agreement for a photograph and not know what photograph that applies to, right? So that's got to be a description of the photograph. It's got to be, oh, the wedding pictures that I did of the blah, blah, blah couple that were in the car on this date, and there was trees reflecting in the window on this side or whatever, blah, blah. You know, you actually go through a whole description as far as that whole part goes to figure this whole part out. So are we getting a little bit more clear about what usage really is in terms of all of this? So all of these things are ways for you to calculate how much your image is going to be used, right? So for instance, I shoot for Bonton, Carson Perry Scott. They come to me and they want me to shoot a catalog for them. That would be considered one medium. Now, I do fashion photography, and fashion photography has a very short lifespan. For the most part, it's one season and then it's ended. Now, there's certain things that happen every single season. So, for instance, a black t-shirt that you shoot for J. Crew, it's going to be the same damn t-shirt next year. So that type of fashion, you could actually have a much longer duration. But for the most part, anything that is considered of this season, whatever, it's got a 6-month lifespan and then it's gone. So they're not going to buy my image for more than 6 months. So that would be considered one time period. They're doing a catalog only, that would be one medium. Make sense? They're doing it in the United States only. For the most part, Carson's only works in the East Coast and Midwest. So that would be restricted to the media. So if you look at how my license would start to be written, it'll actually start out like this. The media for this, again, it's a catalog. It'll be one medium. The time period for this, it's 6 months. That's the life of fashion. In most cases, there's not an ironclad rule about this, about how much constitutes multiple time periods. Some people consider 6 months to be a time period. Some people consider a year to be a time period. Some people consider a week to be a time period. So that's just something you need to work out in your mind. But for most part, whatever, the time period here, it would be 6 months. That would be considered one time period for me. Make sense? And then finally, go down again. Region here would be considered one region. Again, it would be the northeast of the United States. But that just sort of gives you a rough idea of how this would go, right? So typically what people will do then is they would multiply these together. 1 times 1 times 1 actually equals 1. And in charging for this, when you establish this, when you come up with your creative fee, usually what a creative fee entitles people to would be all of this usage for one time. Does that make sense? So let's say I go through my whole creative fee process. I go through my cost of doing business. I go through, we're going to talk about how you actually come up with your total creative fee, which is different than your cost of doing business. Cost of doing business is part of it, but it's not all of it by any means. I come up with my creative fee. My typical creative fee for this type of work is $3,500 a day. That's what I would actually charge for this. So again, this one usage that you get, or the one sort of like aggregate of all of this, I would charge them $3,500 to actually do this for every day that I shoot. I don't quote this as a day rate, but this would be for every day that I do this kind of work for them. Does that make sense? However, this could change. Let's say they came back to me and they said, well, Mercer, we not only want to do the catalog here, we not only want to use your catalog, pictures for this catalog, but we also want to use it for our website. That doubles the media. That is a second media now. So what happens now is this goes to a 2, and again, 2 times 1 times 1 actually equals 2. Then I charge my creative fee is $3,500. This would be my creative fee. But I would have additional usage of $3,500 in additional usage to cover the second of those. Does that make sense what's going on here? They come back to me again and they say, Mercer, it was a beauty catalog that I actually shot for them, a fragrance catalog. They loved it. Fragrance, unlike fashion, stays consistent. So they say, Mercer, we want to use these same pictures for 2 years in a row. Again, we want to do it for catalog and we want to do it for website both. And all of a sudden, this time period changes to a 2. That changes this number to a 4. I still have my $3,500 creative fee, but now I've got 3 additional usages, and 3 times 3,500 is 005 with 1 here, 10,000. My additional usage now is $10,500. Is this beginning to dawn on you guys? Same fucking picture. I didn't spend any longer taking it. I didn't do anything more with it. Not do it. It's the same exact picture. There's no difference. In one scenario, I make $3,500 for it. In another scenario, I make $14,000 for it. Same picture. You don't think usage is important? I always show people this one. People never believe this one, but it's actually true. Stephen Meisel's creative fee is $70,000. So Stephen Meisel does a picture for product. You guys all know who Stephen Meisel is? Anybody not know? Anyway, really famous fashion photographer. He does a picture for product. He does all the product's work, whatever. So in Prada's case, they use it for print advertising, so it's in magazines. They actually use it for online presence, their website. They do point of purchase, which is actually the boards that sit on counters in stores. They actually do it for their window advertising. We're up to 5 right now. They do it for their direct mail, all the same pictures. That's 5 media. And there's probably some that I'm missing, but you'll get the point here anyway. That's 5 media that he actually does it for. Now again, Prada, it's fashion for the most part, so usually their time period is only 1, so they don't actually get it more than that, right? However, the region that they actually do this for is they do it for the North America, South America, Europe, Asia, probably not Africa, but maybe. But anyway, that is 4 regions that they actually do this for. So when you figure this whole thing out, again, you do the math here, this is 20 usages that Stephen does every single time he shoots for product. 20 usages, you get the first one for $70,000. Can somebody whip out a calculator really quickly, please, and do the math for me? I need to know what 19 times 70,000 is. This is his creative fee. $1,330,000. That's additional usage. Same damn picture. Wait, 1 million? That's not a million. What was the figure? $1,330,000. Okay, so an extra 3. 1,330,000. Sorry. No. Yeah, Stephen's doing okay. You thought he was doing good when you thought he was making 70 grand for his creative fee. Fuck that. Give me the usage and you can keep the creative fee. So in terms of how you figure out usage, there is a calculator, place to go that you'll see. It's actually on our website. This is something that you should bookmark for yourselves. If you look at this Plus Picture Licensing Universal System, what ended up happening is that this whole movement of using usage was actually something that started like in the 80s. Before this didn't really exist. It was really in the 80s and the 90s that this whole idea came about. And it took off and it was really successful. Photographers started making a whole lot of money. There was a group of people that got together that they got together and they said, we really need to standardize this whole process. We've got to have a way to generate a license that not only sort of gives you guys a checklist, but will actually generate the license for you. Make sense? So, and this is what it looks like. If you go, this is the terminology for it right here. If you click on this, it'll give you a lot of spiel about it. But the actual license generator is right here. It's called the Plus license generator. Plus actually stands for, I forget what it ever stands for, but when we open this guy up, you'll actually see what it actually looks like. And so this is a free thing you can use. It is a license generator. It's the universal license statement. What this thing is designed to do is actually create a license for you simply by filling in stuff on this form, okay? So again, Andrew, this is what you would use. Again, you would have to translate it, but this is what you would use to generate the license that says you can do this, this, and that's it. And then if they do more than that, then they have violated your contract, and you should be able to sue them for that and restricted from that. So Andrew was just saying to me that in China, that's a situation where people do pictures for people, and then they turn around, and the clients actually, use this shit for everything. Well, I would argue that the exact same thing happens to everybody in this room, that is no different, because nobody in this room is writing licenses saying, this is what you can do with my images and nothing else. And you need to be doing that, all right? So at any rate, this is how it works. We're going to do a really quick one here just so you can get some idea of what's going on. But it starts out here at the very top. You'll see right here, it'll ask you about media permissions. Now, if anywhere in this guy you actually don't understand a term, so let's say you don't understand what media permissions are all about, click on the little question mark icon, and it will actually open up, and it will explain, it will define every single thing that is on this guy right here. Does that make sense? Okay, so in our case, just so that you know that's actually happening, I'm going to look down here. It starts with this, and it's basically you're just filling in stuff as far as that goes. I am going to do a custom